We have finally hit the episodes that were skipped in the US broadcast of the season. Yeah, can you believe it took them that long this time? Though to be fair, of the 6 that were skipped, this was the only one of them to air in Canada, and thus would have gotten a rerun on Cartoon Network later on, if I were at all paying attention to it at that point. If memory serves the week this would have gotten the re-airing at an off time, I was off at a family reunion I was dragged to, where ironically I was busy playing Battlework 5 on my GBA. Because, you know, timing! Regardless of that, amidst a Nebula attack on Net City caused by a Navi infected with Dark Soul, Aquaman ends up saved from certain doom by Rockman, leading to the young-minded Navi becoming a bit fixated on his senior. And in a bit of a clingy way at that. Katsuhiko Chiba brought us this one, and admittedly between a few recurring plot points between Outlaw Star, Gundam Wing, and a couple other series of his I've liked, I kind of feel like he has a thing for characters that imprint on others. Still, because this has set itself up directly as a comedy filler episode plot, it's better than the bad sect that always relies on bashing a character for their yucks. This is how you're supposed to do humor. Person versus self. Person versus person. Person versus society. Person versus nature. Insulting a character by mischaracterizing them does nothing but harm that content and the creator that does such, as has long been my thesis with the anime's problems. But here, this fits Aquaman to do this, and unintentionally makes himself a nuisance because the Navi's too naive to know better. And this fits with his depiction in his prior appearances, where he unintentionally causes problems for those around them. See? This is what I've been talking about all season that the bad staff have not been doing. Soon! Actually, this is the first time Male's been allowed to be a tsundere in quite a while. It's almost as if half the staff forgot that was a character trait of hers. But yeah, part of the problem with this episode, and for once I mean that in respect of the internal problem that the characters have to resolve as part of the plot, and not in regards to the construction of the story itself, is that Aquaman legitimately doesn't want to leave Rockman anymore. But that's dangerous since despite how powerful Aquaman can be at times, well, against the Dark Lords and Nebula agents, he is at best a liability. Thus they need to convince Aquaman to separate from his personal hero and return to Shuko where it's safer. And also so it'll make it safer for Shuko, as with her constantly in Neto's personal space, Male's getting all riled up. Fortunately to show this, Burnerman's run out of dark ships, so gets an assignment from Laserman in exchange for more, which has them specifically target Rockman to get him out of their way. This then conflicts with the efforts to remove Aquaman from being attached to the hip, with them initially trying a game of hide-and-seek to trick a separation, which they believe will end in Aquaman going back to Shuko, forgetting entirely that when Aquaman gets sad, the waterworks start flooding. But because Burnerman threatens a manufacturing plant, well, hide-and-seek gets interrupted, and Aquaman's refusal to stay behind ends up infuriating Burnerman, as Burnerman's call-out demanded a fair one-on-one fight. Yeah, that's the face you make when you realize you're going to die in a comedy episode as a B-plot. I unironically love this episode so damn much. Still, Burnerman charbroiling Rockman finally gets into his head that, hey, maybe Aquaman's nonsense is actually making problems for him. As Rockman's efforts to get away from him lead the two into the Furnace Network, where Burnerman entirely isolates Rockman from Axess by Neto to send him battleships or souls, simply because this network is isolated due to the heat and molten metals around it, making it extremely difficult to get to. But Aquaman following, as said, only ultimately makes him a liability, as then Rockman has to switch from hit-and-run tactics that might eventually wear Burnerman down on his own to defensive ones to protect the far too oblivious Aquaman. It's only when they're about to die that, of course, Rockman's expected Deus Ex Machina appears, and Aquaman's wish to save his savior generates Aqua Soul. And with Rockman now a water elemental, well, Burnerman, even with a dark chip advantage, isn't getting past his elemental weaknesses. Especially now with the attack power doubling Aqua Soul features, once Neto can finally send battle chips.
Unison Aqua Soul か。使えそうだな。
Probably better than in the games, where the soul form barely has a use. However, as is the resolution to a comedy plot, Aquaman has his moment with Rockman, so is more willing to let him be free to live his life. But the problem is, since Roll dived over to save him from the tail end of the battle, well, it looks like Aquaman's now imprinted on her, thus repeating the cycle of Aquaman needing to learn that, dude, they're just not that into you. The wrap-up. We have the Clinger to Aquaman and his infatuation with Rockman, and eventually Roll in this episode. We have I've Got Soul, for another Blue Moon Soul Unison getting spotlights. The tail end of the season that we're in now starts to blitz in a few more of the forms, since they still had half of them to go, and quite a lot of them are in filler episodes like this, taking out very Darkloids. Their execution varies, though. We have The Witch Dies in Water, to Burnerman's body literally falling apart from the blast of the Aqua shot. I gotta admit, this was a lot more gruesome than I expected, even with as bloodless as the destruction was presented. Just the showcase of his limbs and body cracking like that has its own charm to his ultimate breakdown and defeat. But it goes to show that sometimes you just need to go Water Tribe on a guy to get him to go down. This one is actually better than it might seem from the outset with Aquaman's obsession, and I think what helps with that is Aquaman, by his presented mental age, is that of a very young kid, and thus it retains an innocence that is lost if his actions were done by anyone older or larger. If this were, say, Gutsman, then it'd be really, really creepy. But as he's childlike, it just ends up with the guy not seeming to know better. And even better, everyone around him acknowledges that it's not right for him to act like this, but due to his childlike mind, they can't convince him to stop with any success. Again, this is important for proper depiction of characters, knowing what can be done with an individual without it being detrimental to the portrayal. We've seen Aquaman's innocent obliviousness before, and while it is a nuisance, it is never truly malicious. Even better, for the short time she's on screen, this does also show some growth with Shuko as well, in that she doesn't act like a completely helpless moping sad sack all this time, but is engaged in trying to get her Navi to listen to reason. She's ultimately still useless in succeeding at that, but she was being better and holding firm to doing her part, which wouldn't have held firm before.